Welcome to the Photography Opinion Podcast. We discuss all things photo, video, and camera related. I'm Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this is Photo Op. Hello, podcast listeners. So I am Ben Lucas. This is Stuart Marlantis on the other end here. And today we are following up. If you don't know us by now, I don't know what podcast you've been listening to, honestly. It's just us the whole time. That's kind of the point of the show.
We've been doing this for a year now. You should know who we are.
That's fair. Yeah. So this is kind of a part two. So if you missed it last week, we recorded this all of 4 minutes ago. So last time...
No, behind the scenes knowledge.
Oh no, I'm breaking the fourth wall. So last time we talked about natural light versus kind of available light, if you will. And so this time we are going to set that discussion aside, just assume that you are in a situation where you need to pick up some lighting gear, and we are going to talk about kind of our favorites, stuff that we use, maybe stuff that we'd like to use, and I have a whole array of toys at my fingertips. So when is it that we choose to pick up one item versus another item? So obviously, if you're shooting video, you need video light. But the whole rest of the time, there are just so many options. Do you want to kind of start with video light, since video is way more limited?
Yeah, video is a lot more limited. You pretty much have, nowadays, it's pretty much all LED, unless you have very specific needs, which you will already know ahead of time, and you'll probably not be looking to this episode for help. You'll probably be using some sort of LED. Now, there are a few different types, different capabilities. There's a lot of LED panel lights out there that vary by... there's lots of bicolor, there's monocolor, there's edge lit. There are a bunch of different LED panels out there, RGB capable panels. That's where you see most of like the inexpensive LED lighting, and actually expensive as well. There's some LED panels that get crazy expensive. Like 300 watt LED panels that are thousands of dollars. But that is, I will say that although I have moved up the ranks a little bit through different LED panels, even the cheap ones are starting to get really good. The thing to look for with LED light quality in general is the CRI value, which is the color rendering index. And generally, if you get something over 90, that's going to do most of what you need to do as far as
I think
skin
pretty much
tones.
Everything I own clocks in about 96, 97 CRI. For those of you at home who haven't heard that before, what it means is how close to advertised is the actual light. So if a light says that it's 5600 Kelvin at, like, let's say 100 CRI, which doesn't exist, by the way, but if it is, that means you are 100% getting exactly 5600 Kelvin the whole time. Versus if you have, like, I don't know, like 1 CRI, that means, like, you know what? We don't really try that hard. Maybe it's 3000, maybe it's 10,000. Who's to say? So a lot of the cheap knockoffs, I think, are coming in around the 80% range, which... yeah, you're saving some money with those, but they're not good because...
And that sounds good, but there is a huge jump in light quality between 80 and 90. You really, 90 should be your baseline.
You're starting to get, like...
plenty. No, it's not.
Yeah, no, you're starting to get, like, green and magenta, like, tints when you should be on the blue-orange scale that just... It looks bad. I think 94 is probably like the lowest I would go. Any lower than that, and I'd probably just skip it. But that's me. Yeah.
If you're on a budget, 90 will get you started. If you have a little bit more money, something to look for is LED lights that have green and magenta shift capability. So this is really cool. There isn't really anything that is at 100 CRI in the LED sphere. I mean, they approach it, but like 97, is about where things
like
tend to top out.
Aries are 99.
Yeah, 99 for Ari lights. But the thing that's really cool with some of these lights, and this is an increasingly available capability, is you can get them with already probably pretty high CRI if you're in this bracket, but then you can adjust the magenta or green shift to dial that in and make it look perfect. So that's something that you might look out for. If you're really color sensitive and you have a little bit of a budget to play with, look for a light that has green magenta color shift capability. But yeah, I still really like LED panels. I think they're great. It's a great budget option. They're increasingly really good.
I stole
really
your
cheap.
LED panels because they're awesome.
Yeah. I've been using these GVM, I believe they're the 50 RS series, which is a nice LED panel that gives you both tungsten and daylight LEDs, so you can color shift it for any of those values you'd want in between. But also they have a really good setup of quite high output RGB LEDs, so you get all the RGB goodness. It's not perfect, but it's pretty reasonably priced, and you can pick up several of them on sale and have a really good setup of both, quote unquote normal video lights, but also some RGB if you need it, which for something like like a gray vinyl backdrop would be sweet. You could throw some of those on it and really make a cool color. So I think LED panels are awesome. Increasingly as well, we're getting LED lights that are LED video lights, monolights with cob, or also called cob lights, like a big single LED chip.
It looks like a strobe,
yeah.
but it's a constant.
Yeah, it looks like a strobe, but it's a constant light. And those are getting very reasonably priced nowadays, even in bicolor, and you're starting to even see bicolor and RGB ones with less output, but really impressive. I mean, you can get a 100 watt for a couple $100 nowadays, which is pretty crazy for something that you can throw all sorts of modifiers on and really have a lot of output and a lot of usability. So yeah, I would take a look at those too. I have some from GVM. There's ones from Godox increasingly. There's Aputure ones that are, kind of the gold standard. There are all sorts of brands out there that make good ones. So I would check those out. If you got a little bit of a budget, I would push you towards Aputure lights. They are really nice. But that's where I would go for video lighting for the most part. I would stick to, if you're lighting a person, 3-point lighting is the standard for a reason. You want a key, you want a fill, you want a hair light. Your key, obviously, you need pretty high output on. Your fill, potentially a little bit less, although it's nice if you can match them.
Aputure really is a good brand of light. That's actually the brand of light that I have, and I bought mine. When did you help me buy them? Like 8 years ago, 7 years ago, something really, really old. But they work though.
Aputure's great, and they've only gotten better in the meantime. There are all sorts of options. They still tend to be a little bit more expensive, but that's totally fine.
Well,
for
more
how
expensive
good they are.
than like your Chinese knockoff type lights, but they're not more expensive. Like, I have some expensive ones.
Yeah,
those are cheap.
It's not like an Ari or something.
No.
But yeah, I highly recommend Aputure stuff. GVM, depending on what they make, is good. There's all sorts of stuff. Even Godox is doing some. I mean, mostly Godox has been in strobes and speed lights, but they're starting to do some really compelling constant lighting as well. So there are some good values out there.
Let's shift just a little bit. When would you choose like a monohead style light over a LED panel style light?
To me, that's increasingly a question of budget over
No.
when I would choose
You
it.
own both. You have both sitting on a table.
Mm-hmm.
When would you want to pick up and put on a light stand the LED one versus when would you want to pick up and put the Monolight one on?
I would pick up the Monolight for certainly any key kind of situation, any key light. It's just going to have the best output, and it's going to be the most easy to modify. The one major downside to me for panels is that modification is a little janky. They tend to come with soft boxes, but it just doesn't spread it out very much. Like, you could put a scrim in front of it, you're going to lose a lot of light output. I would really go to a Monolight and put a soft box or something on that, or even put a scrim in front of that. That would be a much bigger, better, brighter, softer output than a panel. So I'd use a panel more for potentially a fill, or definitely a hair light, or like a environmental lighting, or like a backdrop light. That would be perfect for a panel. In a pinch, panels can do key okay, but I would really go for a Monolight.
Yeah, panels, they also excel if you're being extraordinarily lazy. And you don't want to deal with modifiers. If you have a really, really small workspace, and you have to get the light really, really close to you, now all of a sudden, like inverse square ratio and all that stuff, you've got a nice soft light going on, that you don't have the depth to put in a big light modifier. And I think the other thing is there is kind of this look of, like, you see it sometimes in fashion magazines, and you see it sometime for like YouTubers, where you zoom out a little bit and it shows some of the studio. I really dig the look of a barn door. So if you've got an LE panel with a barn door on it, like, oh, those just look cool. So if you're doing that kind of thing where, like, it's going to be in the shot for any reason, like, that looks cooler than put like a Chinese lantern on a Monolight type thing.
That's true. Yeah. There is something to be said if you're showing off your studio space. The panels can look really cool. Yeah, they look very, very non-traditional in comparison to everything else. But yeah, that's generally when I'd pick one up. Otherwise, video 3-point lighting. Google it. Much better people have talked about it than me.
Like me.
Pretty straightforward.
I talked about it. I literally got paid to make a video on that one.
Yeah. Oh, I should say really quick before we get out of video lights, don't discount smaller LED panels. Like, we're talking in general about big ones, 1x1, 2x2, 1x2, that kind of size, which are cool. But there are some really neat smaller options as well. The Aputure MC is a particularly notable one that has all sorts of effects, has pretty good output, RGB, and tunable white values. You can actually light some, not yourself, but you could light like a backdrop pretty well with some RGB, with something like the Aputure MC. So I would look at some of the smaller ones too. There's a lot of opportunity there as well if you're on a budget or on restricted space constraints.
If you've used the MC at all, it can definitely still, in a pinch, be a still tool. It makes a really good hair light. It makes a really good kind of atmosphere light. If you're shooting like a wedding and you need to like light up an alcove or something, you've just got this little thing and you put it in there and then boom, mega light. You can't do that with like a big mono head. So no, that's it's a good light. I like it a lot. Yeah. It's expensive. I don't like that part.
I really want one of those cases with like 4 of them in it with the wireless
I want
charger.
one of the cases with 12 of them in it.
Oh yeah, the 12. There you go. Just instead of getting an LED panel, just buy a 12-pack of MCs and like glue them together.
So let's talk for a second about when you're doing photography, when do you choose like constant light over flash? So I know I have a lot more experience with that, so I will answer my own question.
Go for it.
So one thing that I was just mentioned with like the MC is if you throw it in that alcove and you've got and you're mixing, I can totally do a key with a flash head and then a fill with a constant and just kind of balance the camera settings and the flash settings to get those both. So it is not an either or. You can mix and match. And in fact, I have. I used to use a flashlight in some situations to light couples just to kind of get like an orange glow because my speed light wasn't doing it. And this was way back in the day when I first started. But No, so they're like when I go to a wedding, like I'm not lugging a bunch of mono heads and stuff. Like I'm bringing speedlights and I'm bringing really small modifiers that are for speedlights, whether that's an umbrella or something like the Westcott Rapid Box, which I absolutely love. And then there are times where I want really big lights. So like if I'm working in a studio doing kind of like a fashion shoot of, yeah, maybe you can get away with doing speedlights, but I have big modifiers that work on my big lights. I don't besides umbrellas, I don't really have modifiers that work with all my speedlights. So if I want to use my, 7-foot umbrella or my 8-foot strip bank or whatever, like I'm using a bigger head for that. I think outdoors, the other thing too is, and as soon as you move out of your studio space into the outdoor space, constant light just fails completely in comparison to flash. Flash is like no contest.
Yeah, it's so easy to just totally obliterate any constant light.
Yeah, for sure.
In that kind of situation. Yeah.
So, yeah, where do we go from here?
Well, that's constant versus momentary. I'm searching for a word. Momentary lighting.
Instantaneous pop of white light.
But yeah, we should probably run down some stuff. Some of the gear, especially that you have, and when you use it, cool. I think probably would help people out.
Let's have a clean transition. So let's see. I said where do we go from here? I think that's kind of funny if you want to be like, hey, let's talk about some of the lighting modifier options.
Yeah.
So go for it.
Well, I think onward from here, we should talk about some of the modification options we have for lights and when we should use them.
Of course. So my absolute favorites are strip banks. And strip banks are very particular. So a strip bank is a very tall, very skinny light. You can put it behind a model horizontally, and it can light like their arms and shoulders and hair light and all of that way better than kind of a single pin spot can. You can put it behind them and angle it vertically, just like behind them and to the side, and then you get that really nice rim light. It's going to be a lot softer wrapping kind of around the edges of like their face and muscles than like a hard spotlight would, and you're also going to get better coverage if you're doing like fitness type stuff, going from head down, like shoulders and abs, all the, like head to toe. You can get that really nice coverage that with a hard spot you are not getting. I like to make my lighting very subtle, and a bare bulb is not subtle at all.
That's fair, yeah. So you like strip banks. But speaking of that, like you mentioned that they're basically just tall, skinny soft boxes.
Yeah.
Where do you go for a more traditional softbox?
So, your very basic traditional softbox. When I was buying softboxes, and I'll be completely honest, I only have one size. Because I owned the Pulsey Buff strobe heads, I went to get the Pulsey Buff softboxes, and they had small, medium, large. I'm like, well, the smalls are useless, and the larges are too big to bring with me on location. I'm going to pick up a couple of mediums. And then those are the ones I've used forever. So I've made some additional things of like, I have barn doors and snoots, and if you don't know what those are, we'll get to it. And beauty dishes. But when it comes to just kind of generic, like softbox, an umbrella for the most part is when you want to carpet bomb your entire set with light. You use an umbrella. If you're just trying to light someone and not the background, you use a softbox versus an umbrella. Cool. Generally speaking, because the softbox is going to aim and direct that just a little bit better. So if I'm looking to get something really specific on a model and trying to keep the kind of light spill away from my backdrop or my set, I'm going to aim for a softbox over an umbrella. And a normal softbox over a strip bank, always a key. Strip banks are very small footprint for that really nice light, so they make really excellent side and fill and rim lights. They don't make good keys though, unless you're shooting cars. But that's another thing for another day.
Well, I know of a modifier that I guess everybody should use all the time for everything,
Beauty
right?
dish?
The beauty dish.
Yeah.
Right?
I was just messing with
beautiful,
you.
Right?
I was just messing with you and trying to interrupt. I didn't actually know you were going to say beauty dish, but the fact that you did makes me happy inside.
Yeah. So what's the deal with the beauty dish? Like, is that just something that that makes everything look beautiful, or what?
Yes, that's it. No, honestly. So a beauty dish is an overpriced salad bowl with a hole in it, essentially. So, and you can add modifiers to your beauty dish to make it less beauty dish-esque. I don't know if that's a word. So what it is it's this giant salad bowl, and you put the bare bulb in it. Except the bare bulb bounces off this metal deflector plate, and that sends all of the light around the dish. So essentially what it's doing is it is turning your tiny, let's say 1 square inch of bare, harsh flash into a 2 square foot bare, hard flash. It's kind of this weird thing of like you're still getting the hard punchiness of like a bare bulb, but that bare bulb is now the size of your beauty dish, which is like 20 something inches. It's ridiculous. So it just has this kind of quality that no other modifier comes close to. If you want to soften it up just a little bit more, you put a sock on it. If you want to make sure that it is just an absolute funnel, you can pop a grid in there so it's just hitting your model and absolutely nothing else. A beauty dish is just kind of an amazing tool to make people look great. Don't use it for product photography. The reflections it makes are super hella weird.
All right, very good. Very good. You mentioned earlier barn doors and snoots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have an LED, so like I do have a barn door system for my flash. It basically, so a barn door allows me to, one, you can actually use the barn doors to kind of block and filter your light so that you're not getting light spill where you don't want it. So it just gives you a little nuance, more control, but it's still a bare bulb light. So it's a bare bulb light that's contained. Okay. But the other thing that's nice about getting kind of like a barn door rigs that sits in front of your light versus just like your LED panel barn doors is that it has another little slot in it that you can use like gels or filters.
Yeah.
So if you don't spring for those RGBs, you can buy a really cheap just set of gels, set a barn door, slip a thing in there, and then there you go. You've got a green light now.
And barn doors are how people make those like slashes of really like dramatic light behind people on like a backdrop. That's how that effect is.
So if you want it to make it look like there's like a window and you have like the shape of a window or like a palm frond because you're supposed to be in California but you're actually shooting in Wisconsin because I don't know, tax benefits or something. Like so that kind of thing is actually called a cookie. Which you're cutting out the shape of the shadow you want, putting it in front of your light, and you're casting that shadow essentially. So that is another reason that you can get like a barn door with like a filter thing, so that you can use cookies or gobo, which means go between is the other word for it. But when you're specifically trying to make shapes like that, they're cookies. And then
cookies, gobos, snoots. There's lots
snoots.
Of fun words here.
And snoots. No, we are not talking about the time where my dog interrupts the podcast and I got to boop his snoot. What we are talking about is an attachment to your flash that is a very long sniper barrel looking thing that essentially turns your flash into a flashlight. It turns it into a very concentrated beam spotlight, so you can have a very direct light. So you could do a snoot on a product if you just need to get just a little bit of light in one particular area. You could do it just to like put light on just part of a person's eye if you're trying to be, you know, really fancy and artistic. I've seen, going back to Joe McNally, I've seen Joe McNally do one where he added a snoot with a flash just to aim it at a piece of jewelry. So it did not affect his model or his exposure at all, but it made that jewelry just like sparkle with like otherworldly luminescence just by aiming like a snoot flash just right, very concentrated, direct. So, yeah, I don't use it very often, but I do have one. And when you need it, there is literally nothing else that can get the job done.
Very cool. Very cool. So, let's see. We got a few more things to talk about. One we've mentioned a little bit already, which is a scrim. I'm not sure if we explicitly talked about what that is yet. But that is just a fancy word for translucent white material, basically.
Any kind of diffusion that cuts the light. So some scrims are generally just trying to, so like really, I worked in a studio where their flash powers worked on those really old packs where you basically were on full power or half power, depending on where you plugged in the pack, and then you could turn it onto half power or full power. So you could get, basically, you could plug it into the half power side of the pack, and then put the pack on half power, and now you're at a quarter power, and then you add a scrim, and now you're at an eighth power of like, that's how you had to do things back in the day. Yep. So yeah, scrims can help you cut light. They can help you shape light and diffuse light. They're just like we talked about in the natural light episode. I use them all the time when I'm doing natural light because the sunlight is a very harsh mistress, and you need to kind of diffuse that onto your subject a lot.
And if you buy a reflector or are using a reflector, you probably have a scrim
5-in-1 reflector
already.
Specifically. Yeah. So if you buy a 5-in-1 reflector and you pull off the actual reflective part, the inside part, they'll probably call it a diffusion panel. That is a scrim. Yep. They're the same thing.
Pop-up scrim ready to go.
Let's see. I think I have one kind of final just favorite. It is a luxury item, but I like it. Hashtag not sponsored. I have said many bad things about Westcott in my time as a photographer. The internet has hated me for it for a very long time, but this piece of gear I love so much. Okay, so the Westcott eye lighter, it is just a curved reflective panel. And you're thinking like, there's nothing that special about it. Why is it so expensive? Well, guess what? I've seen the third-party option, and the setup time is like 200 times longer on the knockoff version. That's essentially the only difference. I'm like, that's worth it to me. So no, the eye lighter, it is specifically, it's just this curved reflective panel that kind of you put in front of a portrait subject, and it specifically makes those special catch lights in the bottom of their eye, but it also just lifts all of the shadows kind of underneath their face. And it is meant to be a nice fill, and it does an excellent, glorious job. But I have hacked it a little bit in my cosplay photo booth to act as a key light. What?
Whoa. Well, how do you turn an eye lighter into a key light then? How does that
Thank
work?
you for asking, Stuart. I was hoping you would. No, so we talked earlier about doing a horizontal strip light as like a as like a rim light. So what I do is I sandwich my model directly in between that angled strip light and that angled eye lighter, and then so they're getting the rim, and then it's just pouring tons of light into this eye lighter and bouncing all of that back up, and it just kind of creates this kind of cool, creepy look, being the fill key light essentially.
Crazy.
So.
Yeah, that's one thing that we should probably say is, although we are giving ways to use each of these different modifiers, get creative, play around, use them incorrectly, and see what happens.
Oh, for sure.
You might find a look that you really like. So there's a lot of experimentation to be had here.
There really is. You know what? that is a great way to cap off today's episode. Leave a comment, or if you're on some podcast platform that doesn't have a comment section, you can email us. The email will be coming up here just in a second. Let us know what is your absolute favorite way to use a light that is not designed for.
Yeah, sounds good. I'd like to see some creative stuff. Maybe some listeners can give me good ideas on how to use my lights better in more creative ways. I would be so game for that.
If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at Non-Creative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. 'Cause it's free.